Is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
So hello everybody, my name is Mark Sage and I'm the Executive Director of the Augmented Reality for Enterprise Alliance, or known as the AREA. And a warm welcome to our latest AREA webinar titled The Challenges of Enterprise AR Implementation and How Industry Leaders Overcome Them. I'd like to say that the AREA has delivered a number of thought leadership and thought leading webinars that can be found at the AREA website. Please go to www.thearea.org and navigate to the AREA resources page, and within that there's an AREA videos and webinars link as well. Please feel free to look around the AREA website. There's lots more information about enterprise AR through the portal. Okay, let's get on with our webinar today. I'm really excited to be joined by some of the world's leading experts and practitioners in enterprise augmented reality, who are all also AREA members. Our experts can draw on a lot of experience in delivering AR solutions for organizations that have provided real business benefit, and have also many insights into overcoming the business and technical challenges in implementing AR solutions. I hope you are looking forward to listening to their insights. But before we start, I'd like to make a quick introduction about the AREA Alliance and the work that we are doing. The AREA is the only global membership-funded non-profit alliance dedicated to helping accelerate the adoption of enterprise augmented reality. And we do this by supporting the growth of a comprehensive ecosystem, and I'll quickly explain what that actually means. A bit of background: the Alliance was formed after a number of innovative companies began speaking regularly and found that they had started or wanted to invest in enterprise AR. They found by working together, they created a better understanding of the enterprise AR tools that were available. What are the possible use cases or problems that can be solved? How they can implement those solutions, and really started to talk in something that we do very much now, to understand the return on investment from AR. This led to opportunities to co-innovate, to build partnerships and business opportunities, all for the long-term goal of the adoption of enterprise AR. And today, the AREA offers a free and open exchange of good practice, lessons learnt, and technology insights, which is really helping enterprises effectively implement AR and helping AR providers engage with those enterprises. So here you can see the AREA members. It comprises of enterprises, so organizations like Boeing, Bosch, Lockheed Martin, Medtronic, Newport News Shipbuilding, to name a few. A wide range of different AR providers, be hardware, software, platform providers, gesture control, security, content developers and providers. And then we also work with non-commercial organizations, government agencies, research institutes and universities, all of which you can see on the slide. And I'm now pleased to say that we are 47 members strong and growing very quickly. So finally, just a quick overview of some of the initiatives that the AREA is working on to help the enterprise AR ecosystem. We continue to deliver thought leadership enterprise AR content that helps business decision makers make informed decisions to invest in AR. And content such as use cases, what problems can be solved, case studies, real-life examples of those problems being solved and providing value, an overview of what technologies are needed, again focusing on the ROI from using AR to solve those business problems. Secondly, the AREA offers networking opportunities through both virtual and face-to-face meetings. It's a great way to engage with the other members in the wider ecosystem, to build partnerships, co-innovate and discuss what needs to be done to drive the enterprise AR ecosystem forward. So great opportunity from learn to other people from other companies who have delivered AR solutions as well. We also understand that there's potential for an industry skills gap in AR. So we're looking to work with educational courses and universities to develop appropriate courses and to work with them to make sure we have the skills that are needed for the future. And the fourth area is something we've been focusing very much on recently, is about reducing the barriers to adoption. What we're finding in the industry is there's lots of proof of concepts, prototypes, different activities that are happening, but not so much commercialization or industrialization of solutions. So we're supporting this by creating a number of committees in working groups to focus on identifying, classifying, prioritizing, and overcoming these business barriers. This includes areas like safety and security. We've also created a single set of hardware and software requirements that we share with the ecosystem, and continue to promote the benefits of AR to the wider ecosystem through our marketing committee. And also we have the area research capability, which allows members to propose applied research that they would like to see, and then all members get an opportunity to vote on this. We have delivered 2 member-exclusive comprehensive research reports already. The first one focused on the security in wearables and provided an overview of the risks and how to manage AR wearables from a security perspective, especially within enterprises. And this research was very well received by the members. The second research project delivered in H2 2017 was the first enterprise AR ROI calculator, return on investment, and supporting reports and insight. Again, this was needed to help qualify and quantify and understand the costs, but more importantly, the benefits of delivering enterprise AR. Okay, I hope you've learned a little bit more about the area, and if you're interested in finding out even more and how the membership may benefit your organization, please feel free to contact me on mark@thearea.org. So I have 2 final messages before I introduce today's panelists and experts. We will not be taking any verbal questions, but would ask you, if you have any questions, to write them into the questions panel within the webinar tool. If we have time, we'll answer them, but if you add your contact details, we promise we will respond directly to you as well. And the second is we are recording this call, so I'll be sharing the link when it's up on the area website and our experts companies' websites as well. So you can go back and listen to anything that you may not have picked up the first time. Okay, so I'd like to now hand over to our experts today. So I'd like to ask each one of them to introduce themselves and provide a little bit of insight to yourself and to what your organization is doing. So perhaps, David, if I could start with you.
Sure. Thanks very much, Mark. If you could just roll on to the next slide, please, if you can. So as Mark said, I'm the sales director of Theorem, and so moving on to the slide beyond that, that's very much an introductory slide. Theorem Solutions. So we're a company based in the UK, but with a global reach. Set up in 1991, very much based on an engineering heritage. So the guys who formed the business came from the world of engineering. So it's understanding CAD and PLM and bringing that information and allowing companies to utilize that in whatever use case that they choose. We're very much focused on enterprise organizations. Our customers are throughout or all over the globe, and predominantly in the automotive, aerospace, defense sectors, but are all well-known organizations. And what we do for them is to help them leverage their CAD and PLM assets. So they've invested many man-years of effort into these designs, which they can use to share with their supply chain. Sometimes to do that, they need to sort of read one format and pass it out to another. They need to visualize that data in whatever tool that may be. They may want to put it into a 3D document or PDF document. But the purpose of today's webinar and where we're at latterly is our ability to take that CAD and PLM data and put it into the world of virtual, augmented, mixed reality experiences. So really making that data work for them. So if we go to the next slide, please. So what we offer in very simple terms are some experiences, a common term these days, where we can read engineering data together with associated metadata, text data, and bring this into what we call visualization experience. And visualization is purely, let's have a look at the data and we can share that amongst a number of people. Let's have a look at that model. We can do it, take that further, little step further. What we have developed in the last 12 months is the ability to do a design review. So where we're having a webinar today, we could be having a 3D webinar, WebEx, where I could be showing you a car engine and you could all see that car engine. I could rotate it, I could hide bits of it, we could delve into the detail of that. And the design review with a digital twin is very much where you've got a physical and a digital model, and you're looking at comparing the two. So you might have created one model and comparing it with what you've got. Again, you can put an exchange of comments and video clips and pictures to share that information with others around the globe. It's not just in the guys in the same room. Extending this into manufacturing, we'll see people looking at building us, looking at manufacturing cells. How do they put that manufacturing cell into their existing plant? Is there room for it? Does it impact what they've got there already? And finally, the assembly build. If you've got a complex work instruction, you might just want to show someone how to use that via a tablet or a headset. And automate that process for them so they can see something complicated in an easier form. And finally, we've got customized experiences, and this is how, as we go forward. I mean, we've developed the standard experiences, as I mentioned there, but this industry or this type of technology is very young. It's early in its evolution, and we're seeing more and more requirements from clients who are saying, can it do this, can it do the other? And this is where we're pushing the tech further. Okay, next slide, please, Mark. So my final slide, just as an introduction, is really where we see industry, and this is the purpose of today. And this is what we're seeing with the number of people we talk to, and we've talked to quite a number over the last couple of years in this space, where we're seeing some guys are saying, yeah, I can use that for a design review, an engineering design review, and that's obviously from our background. Similarly in manufacturing, how they could use it there. But beyond that, we're talking to people who are in, say, a service environment, which is, how can I use this to help guys out in the field service a complicated bit of equipment. And training is another one. Again, these are quite new areas to us, but not to us, the companies, but it's areas where people think, geez, this is great. I could really utilize this technology and save me a fortune in having to train people on expensive bits of equipment. Sales and marketing, we're seeing people going to exhibitions and using the tech to show their clients or potential clients what they're offering without having to take lots of equipment to these events. So these are types of areas where people are looking to get the return. And the big question from our point of view is the CAD data, the PLM data is people take it as understood that yes, we can read it in there, but that is the challenge, and I'll come to that during my session. Thanks. I'll move on from there.
Thanks very much, David. Okay, so I'd like to introduce Jeff now from Athea. Jeff, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mark, and thanks again to you and the rest of the area team for putting this together. I think it's fantastic to have somebody helping educate what is, as David suggested, a young industry where people are still learning a lot about what it can provide and how it can help enterprises. So just a little bit about Athea. We're a pioneer in the enterprise AR world. We incubated at UC Berkeley and came into the world in 2012. And we had a simple hypothesis at the outset that augmented reality was going to be transformative to businesses. And we wanted to enable and power that transformation. So as we started down that road, we realized something big was missing. The hardware on which you wanted to run, you were able to run real and rewarding AR enterprise software. So we built our own smart glasses, which were the Aether Air glasses, as a kind of a test harness for AR enterprise software, and learned a lot about the benefits and limits of the technology for business. And as the hardware ecosystem grew, we pulled back from producing our own hardware, and we started to build our own AR enterprise platform, which grew into the cloud-based enterprise AR software that we offer today. If we could get the next slide. So what you see here is one of our flagship customers, Porsche Cars North America. The company started working with us last June with a trial that they did, and then they announced publicly in November that they had begun rolling out an AR solution for service technicians at their dealerships, known as Tech Live Look, which is based on our AR platform and smart glasses from ODG. And just 6 weeks ago, during Augmented World Expo, they announced that they were deploying the solution at scale. And from the slide here, you can see the measurable benefits that they've achieved so far. So what they do is they have their service technicians using our software and ODG's smart glasses to be able to get remote assistance and work instructions through the glasses as they're working on Porsche vehicles. And prior to this, when they had a particularly difficult challenge, they were working with their remote experts in their Atlanta office. And if the challenge was significant enough, they'd actually have to fly people into the dealership to deal with the issue, or they would have to put a car on a transport and actually get it to somewhere where they could do the work. So what this has meant is they've been able to achieve a 40% reduction in service issue resolution times. And it's been so successful that they are now in the process of rolling out to all 198 dealerships across North America. If we could get the next slide. Yeah, and you can see over the past year, what we've seen in the industry is, first of all, one size doesn't fit all. So you've got a variety of different form factors, operating systems, and lots of different use cases. So what we want in a good AR for enterprise use case is something that's very high impact and has an easy entry point. What we also see in a lot of these industrial use cases is that wearing gloves and using tools are common. So you have a lot of scenarios where you want to have hands-free, and the AR solution needs to be able to allow the workforce to be able to continue to be hands-free. A lot of smart glasses have touch controls that may sit on the side of the glasses, which are awkward to use if you're wearing gloves, for example. Voice control is great, and there are some great examples of smart glasses that offer great voice control. But if you're in a really noisy industrial environment, that may not be appropriate. So what you want to do is to have multiple ways to interact with your glasses. So you may want to have gestures. You may want to have head motion. You may want to have some sort of gaze tracking. But whatever the UI is that provides this kind of interaction has to be simple, has to be clear, has to be concise. If we could get the next slide, please. And what we've learned from all this is the real world is really messy. There are, as we said before, one size does not fit all, and we have to look at each use case on its own merits and figure out what kinds of solutions are going to work best. We also found that industrial workers have a low tolerance for complexity. They just want to get the job done. They're not interested in being, pioneers of really complex, difficult technology if it's going to get in the way of them actually achieving the work that they need to get done. And particularly if you've got somebody who's in field service or who's working in a factory, time is really the key issue, and any level of complexity is going to increase the amount of time that it's going to take for them to accomplish their task, which is really the opposite of the goal. But we are seeing real ROI being achieved, as you saw in the previous example. And that this really, this kind of work supports the 70-20-10 learning model, which we've all kind of seen since the mid-1980s, where 70% of your learning is informal and on the job, and remote experts really support that. As well as the 20% that's coaching, mentoring, and developing through your work with others. And it's less about that 10% that you have through formal training. And with that, I will thank you and turn over to Peter.
Thank you, Jeff.
So, Peter.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Jeff. It is a pleasure to share this virtual stage with these with the fine gentlemen from these great companies, and in particular, special thanks to Mark and the area organization putting this together. So, very quickly about Augmate, and in that context myself. So my job is to make sure that our customers and our users are well taken care of from the moment onwards when they start contemplating device management, all the way until they live happily ever after on our platform. So about Augmate, we have been in this business for more than half a decade by now, which is almost like dog years in augmented industrial augmented enterprise augmented reality. We are headquartered in New York City with our engineering team. It was split between Silicon Valley and Delhi area, and we also have an office in Amsterdam. So we also have a European footprint. We started out actually as a before you go to this slide. Let me just add two more thoughts to the previous one. So the way we started out was we were one of the original Google Glass partners, and many of us remember when Google Glass was launched. It was primarily a consumer device, but they started early on a Google Glass developer partnership. So we started as a developer, and then started to develop applications for companies like Toyota or AGCO, which is the maker of John Deere and other large agriculture equipment. And then in this process was when our founder realized that there is another opportunity, maybe a much larger opportunity, solving the problem, solving the pain that the IT departments feel when someone wants to deploy these devices, and why this might be a pain and how to solve. I'll talk about it in my session. And then it went so well, for the matter, that it earned us a Gartner Cool Vendor moniker last year, and we work with it. Therefore, we work with everyone in the ecosystem. So every app developer, every device manufacturer, every player in the ecosystem. And so what we do exactly is, let's just go to the next slide, please. So our Wearable Environment Manager, or WEM product, is a device management solution where it enables our users and customers to manage fleets of wearable devices, primarily head-mounted devices or smart glasses, but we work with all sorts of wearable devices. And we have a couple of things to claim. One is we have a unique security protocol that is specific to these devices. So it's not a general security solution, but specific to the nature and the use cases of these devices. We can be either user-centric or device-centric. And the reason why it's important to be user-centric, as you just heard from Jeff, users in this context may not be the most patient ones. We are independent, sort of solution independent, so we work with everyone and everything, so to speak, and we also have a data layer on our platform that provides insights to the administrators about how these devices are being worn and generally about the well-being of the wearer. Next slide, please. We found in our work that our customers may be in two different states, if you will, when they start contemplating. Either they know already what they want or are close to, so they are contemplating how to roll out a solution. And that's when our wearable enterprise manager platform comes in. But frequently, they're much earlier at the journey, and so we help them because we work with everyone and everything, so to speak, in the environment. It turns out we can bring value through our consultative advisory practice. So we help our customers to figure out the fit, determine the utility, and measure the benefits of bringing wearables. As again, both Jeff and David pointed out, the ROI question comes up early on in the conversation. So we have a practice that helps design measurement frameworks for customers to be able to go back to their CFO and say, see, this is how it works. And a subset of this, we enable our customers to sort of have a test and learn, an easy test and learn entry point through what we call a pilot in a box. What you see on the screen, it literally is a box with a couple of devices and an on-prem gateway that enables you to deploy a trial on the ground without any external and additional support. And next slide. And lastly, this is a forward-looking statement. So realizing that wearable devices are a subset of the entire IoT universe, we are in the late stages of developing or actually rolling out our new platform, which is much larger than just wearables, and it covers the entire IoT domain. And because we consider security so important and we have a specific wearable-oriented security architecture, this being a different space required a different solution, so we are using various different blockchain-oriented solutions, rather blockchain agnostic, or blockchain protocol agnostic. So we work with a number of different distributed ledger protocols, from Archain to IOTA to Ethereum and so on and so forth. And then we have a number of features coming online, ranging from developer marketplace all the way to sophisticated data products. But as I said, this is a little bit of a forward-looking statement. So with this, over to you, Mark.
Okay, thank you very much, Peter. Okay, everybody, so I've got just a few simple questions with, I guess, complicated answers or interesting answers from the panelists. Just to remind you, if you have any questions yourself, please just type them into the questions box. We'll be very happy to try and answer them. So let's take the first question, and David, perhaps you can tackle this to start one. So what should companies consider when reviewing their decisions to evaluate AR initiatives? David, can you talk a bit about that?
Sure, thanks, Mark. I wanted to address this question in three parts, really. The first part is about use cases. The second bit is about the data you're going to use to for the use case, and the third element is the device, or what the device says, what you're going to actually use, or which devices are going to display the experience, as we call it. So taking the first part, the use case, we've mentioned this a little bit already, and the technology is very new. Jeff echoed my sentiments earlier, and it's vitally important that the companies work out the best way they can apply this technology to their business, and especially as it can mean changing processes, rather than just applying tech to an existing process. So quite often when we go and see clients, we show them what's the art of the possible, and they look at it and say, this is great, and then they all look around and think, gee, what are we going to do? How can we apply it? Which area of our business is the right area? Is it in engineering? Is it manufacturing? Is it service training, etc.? It tends to be from where we are, because we come from the PLM world, that we're talking to, I guess, engineering, manufacturing guys, but also we're getting more and more into the training and sales and marketing space, as I said earlier. So they're all sort of seeing themselves on the start of a journey here, and the way they're looking to do that is to do it via a proof of concept, a small pilot, to see where they're going to get a good return from it. They look at their own business and think, right, they decide, broadly speaking, where they think they can get a good return, and they'll work, I guess, a short proof of concept. Now, in addition to this, I should also say that I know we're coming at it from the CAD, the PLM world, but we're only just starting to see. I know AR has been around for quite a few years, but we're just starting to see people looking to utilize their CAD data. So I guess the time of the Google Glasses was very much text overlaying on what you see. Is actually bringing in that 3D model, and this is where the challenge, one of the challenges arises. And moving into the next second part of the answer, which is where is the data and how can you get hold of it? Well, if you're looking at engineering data, it's typically held by the engineers, and they typically don't want to let anyone else use that information without good cause. And they have good reason for that. It is a company's intellectual property. They can't let that out into the outside world, as it's giving away their millions of dollars worth of investment, and their IP is going to vanish into just thin air. So once they've decided what they're going to do, they've got to find out where the information is. So they've got to get engineering people on side. That's first point. Second point is, once you've got it on side, there's got to be a way of extracting that data and getting that into these new devices, the new AR devices. And therein lies sort of quite another challenge. The data can be quite complex. If you want to say, yeah, I'm going to pull that automotive engine and put it into a device, and you think, well, where do I get that engine from? Where do I get the parts from it? Who's made it? Maybe it was provided by a subcontractor. So these are all questions which have got to be looked at. The data tends to be held in PLM systems, but then again, it's not that easy to get that data out, and you need to be able to understand the PLM system or have a simple way of getting that data through. So this 3D data, the challenge of getting that into the devices is an issue, and we see that with people we've talked to. An example, a real life example, as an automotive organisation who's been involved in the world of what I call VR in the past, have taken several days to get that data out of there and into the world of VR. Now, it's the same data that goes into AR. So if it takes you 5 days to get it in, it's a bit of a challenge. It's going to be thinking, is it really worth it? Are we going to get much of a return here? So it's really important that you get that process at the front end to get that data out of the systems and automated and in quickly at good quality. And so this is an example where we work with these guys, and we've reduced that from 5 days down to a matter of hours. So that's an immediate benefit from their point of view. So an example of that. So it's looking at the data, who owns it, how can I get it, how can I get it in quickly into these new devices. Okay, and the third element of my answer to this is very much which devices to use. In the traditional area, it tends to be the tablet, but to be honest, the use case should dictate which device is best. You've got head-mounted devices, you've got tablets these days, handheld devices. But if you're going to hold out a tablet at arm's length for more than a few minutes, your arms might start to ache, and it might not be the right device for you. It might be a great device to look at things, but not from a comfort point of view. Similarly, why do you want to wear a cumbersome headset when, or for a period of time when you could just pull out a tablet and hover it over something, get your information you want, and put it back and move on. So you've got to look at that aspect of it as well. And what we're seeing, though, is just taking those two sides apart, is that companies are actually looking at existing infrastructure first. I think looking at tablets, handheld devices, purely as much as anything because they're accepted within their organizations. And I think this comes back to some of the comments earlier from the other guys, is that if you've got some user acceptance first, you might get some traction. So you've got to think about which devices you're going to use for that. How the users are going to be on side to take part in this, using this technology. I should also say, sort of just to finish on this point, is regarding these devices, that you mustn't get yourself locked into these devices. It sounds easy to say, and you think, well, everything's a standard these days. But if you were to just stick to a tablet, and it was a certain vendor's tablet, these devices are going to change. They're changing very rapidly. Head-mounted displays are changing rapidly. More are coming to the market. You do not want to get yourself locked into the technology that's going to compromise yourself as you go forward. And this really is an unknown market space. Today, we don't know who's going to be the winner in supplying the devices in 5 to 10 years' time. If you look at the companies who are starting to get involved in this space, they're names that you wouldn't normally associate with this. You look at Facebook, and you've got Samsung, traditional name. You've got Apple. You've got, I guess, Microsoft as well. So there's all these players are all expending lots of investment into this space. Be very wary about locking yourself into a device. So I think that my answer to that question, I might have gone, I don't know how I am for time. I'll pass that back to you, Mark.
Perfect. Thank you, David. And I think there's some really interesting points there. Maybe I can just quickly ask Jeff to make a comment or two about this question from your perspective and Athea's perspective.
Sure. Well, I would agree with David that the real key to successful implementations starts with the best possible scoping of use cases around business needs. He also talked about the challenge of getting data into AR devices and the question of delivering relevant, timely, and contextual work instructions at the time and place that information is needed. And that's something we very much think about. But we also think a lot about what the data about how work instructions are used can reveal to enterprises in improving their business processes. So if you know where, why, how, and when work is being done, and the challenges that the workforce is facing in doing any given set of tasks, then you can make changes to improve productivity, safety, and further reduce downtime.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeff. And Peter, perhaps a quick comment or a thought on this question?
Sure. I also very much agree with David and with Jeff for that matter. So when, in our experience, when companies are reviewing their decision to evaluate AR initiatives, a lot of focus obviously goes on to efficiency, as also Jeff pointed out, doing better what they are already doing. So metrics like speed, doing something faster, cheaper, with less waste, less downtime, or higher customer satisfactions come to mind. And that is an argument, and it's a great way to begin the penetration within the enterprise. But what we find the real game changer, perhaps later on, is efficacy. These are the things you couldn't do before. You know, that's what really this technology can unlock for you, like piping in a dynamic data feed into a context where it actually makes a disproportionate impact, someone adjusting a machine on the fly. So when we see our customers, when they, or the individual champions in the companies, when they start the adoption process, the best, probably most efficient, no pun intended, is focused on efficiency, but to keep an eye on what efficacy can bring, because that's what really turns them into heroes.
Fantastic, and thank you for that extra piece of context as well. And that's very interesting. Cool. Okay, I think it's important that we move on to the next question. I'm going to focus a little bit more on some of the challenges around interaction. So again, a very nice open question. And Jeff, maybe I could ask you to start with this question. How will AR change the way we interact with the devices, and what changes are needed? Perhaps you can provide some insight and your thoughts on that, please. Sure.
I'll pull back the field of vision on this just a little bit, if you'll forgive the turn of phrase, because I think that there's a lot of things that are interlocking in terms of talking about how we interact with devices. So what you really need to do is to consider a few key elements, and the first of those is your business need. So there's lots of different technologies that can be used to support AR interactions for enterprises. But the interaction technology is really just a set of features in service of meeting business challenges. The higher order issue is the challenges that companies face in implementing AR around properly defining the use case. What business problems are you really trying to solve? How are you going to measure your ROI? You need to be really clear about what you're measuring and have a good baseline to start with. If, for example, you want to measure reductions in downtime for a manufacturing line, you need a good, clear idea of what that number is at the start of the AR project. And then You also need to be aware, as we discussed earlier, that workforces in industrial enterprises often have a low tolerance for technology that looks like it isn't ready for prime time. No one wants to be the champion for flaky technology. So recognizing that AR is a journey and the change management is a big part of helping get to your destination is going to be really important around this. Then you get to the question of technology choices. So enterprise customers need to be able to start where they are, using technology that makes sense in meeting the needs of their use case, their budget, and the change management challenges that they identify in their respective organizations. So again, I'm probably saying this too much, but AR is not a one-size-fits-all kind of proposition. Not every AR implementation needs to start with smart glasses. An enterprise's use case may actually be best supported by the right AR platform running on smartphones or tablets. The kinds of interactions your use case needs to support, such as voice recognition or gestures, may play a role in helping to determine your AR solution. But you may want to start with something intermediate and achievable, given what you already have to work with. And lastly, as I was saying earlier, it is a journey. Because helping people author work instructions is part of what we offer. I kind of boiled it down into 4 things. So the first of those is, in addition to having measurable, clear, and well-defined use cases, the problem you tackle needs to be something that has high impact in your company. The success of your change management strategy and workforce buy-in actually requires this. So if people can see that what they're going to do and whatever effort you're going to require of them is going to make a real measurable difference for the company, they're going to be much more excited about it than if it's incremental or if it's just seen as some manager's pet project. You also really need to have a strong understanding of existing processes and approaches, because you're going to use the data that you get from how people are using work instructions and remote expert help, collaboration, etc., to improve the measurements of downtime, time to resolve issues, maintenance costs, training costs, new employee ramp-up times, safety and productivity as considerations of the bigger data set that you're looking at in terms of how you're figuring out the ROI and the impact on the company. And again, that comes back to starting your AR pilot with that tightly defined use case and learning from it. And once you've got that pilot, then you've got some real-world data and some ROI numbers to use in convincing colleagues and perhaps your IT department that it's time to test a broader rollout. And even there, you need to be cautious about your move from pilot to limited deployment to a broader deployment. So you want to be able to track how well it works for both a hardware and software perspective. And as David pointed out, not be married to one particular hardware solution, because there may be elements of the use case where a tablet's going to be better, and there may be parts of it where you're going to say, actually, smart glasses would be a really great choice here. So, we're excited also about the kinds of interaction technologies that we've seen develop and that we've been involved with over the last 5 years. But I would reiterate that we've also learned in that time that no single method of interaction is going to meet the needs of every enterprise or every use case. So it's all about dialing back to what's going to solve your business problem.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeff. That's really interesting. Maybe Peter, can I ask you to make a comment on the interaction side?
Sure, thank you. So I just wanted to react to one subset, or actually sliver of the issue here, recognizing what Jeff has emphasized, that this is really sort of, you have to start with looking at the business problem, and that will be your guiding principle. But within that, I just wanted to point out that most of the wearable devices tend to be sort of remote descendants or cousins of mobile phones. And so one would think that the user experience is similar enough that would not pose necessarily a challenge for the user. But if you have ever worn any of these devices, they are different enough actually that steepen the learning curve. So we find that, any measure that you can deploy that kind of, like, for example, device management platforms that kind of focus on the task at hand, literally, figuratively, and sort of contribute to decrease the switching cost in terms of user experience from device to device, can bring value to the party. And the flip side is, of this is also true. Good applications, and we see this all the time. The well-designed applications will take the differences between devices into consideration. They will.
Yeah, we seem to have lost Mark at this stage.
So I think we've lost Peter a second. Okay.
No.
Okay. Did you hear me, Mark?
I think, Peter, we just lost you for a bit. If you could just summarize it,
Yeah, we heard you. That was great.
Okay, cool. Sorry. Okay.
Okay, so back to you, Mark.
Okay, fantastic. And so, David, a quick comment on this question as well?
Yeah, very quickly, Mark. My belief is that there's that people start to use glasses, head-mounted devices more and more. I think the current trend is very much handheld tablets for obvious reasons that we know how to operate them and use them, and that's the obvious entry point to the way in. I absolutely believe that the future will be head-mounted devices as they get smaller and easier to wear. Today, they're not as simple to wear, not small enough, and not. That is, to me, is the key. And I'll leave you just one example of this. We do lots of demonstrations showing people the different devices. As soon as someone puts a headset on, they try to interact with it the same way as they do a tablet, and it's not always the right way to do it. You can walk around these things and look at them and look at a hologram. You don't want to be using your fingers to manipulate it with. It's just how we're educated as human beings, but I think that will change in time. Back to you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So we're coming up to 12 minutes left. I want to thank some people for sending some questions, but we're going on to the next question now. And this is again focusing on the enterprise kind of space and delivering kind of AR strategy and devices within an AR within the enterprise. So the question simply, what are the unique challenges related to device/endpoint management when creating your AR strategy? So quite specific, but Peter, can I perhaps ask you to talk to that question, please?
I was hoping you would, so thank you so much. Managing wearable devices, including enterprise-grade smart glasses, present a unique opportunity and a challenge. And you have heard a lot about the opportunity about the gentleman before me. So let's focus a little bit on the challenge side, and let's start with the elephant in the room: security. These devices, typically, as I mentioned earlier, remote cousins of mobile phones, but they are a whole new class of devices after all, with different, very specific challenges. Is just one example. Some of the widest spread device out there in the marketplace today still runs on Android 4.0, or rather the specific version of Android 4.0. So as such, there isn't really one governing security standard among all these connected devices and or applications, and many of these will continue to use security measures that are either outdated or too specific, or kind of focused on that particular domain, and or maybe mismatched with the larger enterprise systems, or otherwise not suitable for this rapidly changing environment. So considering that many of the use cases call for deployments in sensitive places from a security point of view, like satellite manufacturing, for example, aerospace, or oil rigs or medical facilities, and these devices have a specific fingerprints. You know, they almost carry a big target on their back, so to speak, if someone wants to break into the enterprise system and is looking for a vulnerability. So it is paramount that this still maturing industry has mature security solutions. So So partly thanks to the ubiquity of mobile devices in the enterprise, the current mobile device management platforms were conceived under the bring your own device principle. That's the most widespread way of thinking about managing mobile devices, which dictates a particular approach for the security-minded architect, which limits the administrator's ability to protect and manage. And so that's why our platform, for example, chose a path to manage these devices in a manner that is unique and builds on our strong industry partnerships. Our solution is rooted in unique privileges granted by manufacturers to focus on the following attributes. First is trust, which means that the system only allows the designated people and apps to have device and the data access. Second, identity, which means the ability to validate the identity of users, applications, and devices on the network. Privacy, which is the ability to ensure the device personal or sensitive data is kept protected, and protection, which provides safety for devices, the connected infrastructure, and the wearers, and security, maintaining the secure data, devices, and people, and so on and so forth. While security is a critical ingredient, a critical piece, we see that the AR deployment in enterprises, this is sort of a table stakes. You have to be able to be secure, but that's not the primary reason you decide to deploy. So echoing some of the sentiment from earlier, device management platforms also need to recognize how the particular device and the applications are deployed and what the real use case is and how it ladders up to the real business problem. So here are a couple of ways that that illustrates this thinking. For example, considering that there is no such thing as a universal app store for these devices, good device management platforms should enable the administrators to pick and choose apps as they see fit for their particular use cases. It may be on the fly and control the versions and so on and so forth. The other one is, other important feature is an API. If the enterprise already has some device management capability, it may want to consume the ability through an API as opposed to having to redeploy a system specific just for the wearable domain. And but probably the most important features would be to create ability or to have the ability to create policies that combine users, apps, devices, security features, and solutions, and do it in an easy to use mode. And perhaps also useful, even unique feature to be able to provide various device diagnostics. A quick example from our practice working with one of our customers who delivers devices and applications to their end users came to us with an observation that frequently their customers return these devices, essentially wrecked, and they were contemplating whether there is a way to diagnose what happens to those devices. And turns out the customer is a construction company in the Middle East, and long story short, turns out the wearers use them in a temperature range that was not suitable for the device, which is something we could detect remotely, and so that helped them find a solution, design a solution, and work around that. And lastly, and probably fairly uniquely, these devices have unique capabilities, particularly if coupled with the right platform. And for example, if you pull frequently enough device sensors, you are able to pick up on physiological signals such as heart rate or even heart rate variability. So we have a proposition designed that addresses wearer well-being, right? So there isn't much data out there yet as to what it does to the wearer if they are wearing these devices at extended periods of length. But our platform is able to collect and aggregate this data so the operator can make informed decisions related to this. So with this, back to you, Mark.
Thank you, Peter. That's really interesting. Perhaps, Jeff, I could ask you the same question on this and your thoughts.
Yeah, sure. First of all, thanks, Peter. I think you offered a really good summary of the specific security IT implementation and device management challenges faced by enterprise customers who are implementing AR. It does strike me that all of them relate back to the broader challenge of change management and recognize that you need everyone in the organization, including the IT department, if not especially the IT department, to be clear on the benefit the enterprise is going to get from doing the work of AR implementation. And if you've done the right work in defining your use case, measuring your results, and taking a deliberate phased approach, you'll succeed more often than not. And I think all of the specifics that Peter identified are the right ones, and he's right that the elephant in the room is security. I think a lot of organizations will kind of start there when you say, okay, well, I want to add in a new class or range of devices, and some of them may be running Android, some of them could be running Windows, etc. It's going to be interesting.
Okay, thank you. And David, a view on security?
Yeah, very quickly, I would say that, I agree with the other guys. Very much so that today people are kicking off things with traditional devices, and that tends to be okay in terms of device management, security management from IT departments. I think the challenge will become a little bit more, or possibly more complicated as these as newer devices come out, newer operating systems. Who knows what it's going to be, but that's definitely got to be an issue as you go into new devices and to wider, larger production rollouts throughout organizations. So that's it for me.
Fantastic. And I'll just add from an area perspective, we've been talking a bit about the challenges of implementing AR, and I mentioned quickly that we do have a security committee. So our members are coming together, trying to, or identifying what the security issues are, creating kind of protocols and that content that's needed to help enterprises understand the potential challenges, work with companies like Augmented for point solutions, but also just create that content that it allows them to be educated and work on these different areas, similarly with safety as well. Okay, well, to be honest, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the questions I had. We do have some Q&As. I'm just going to pick a couple very quick, and I tell you why, because if you haven't gathered already, I'm actually a Brit, and in about 2 minutes we start the World Cup semi-final. So we want to go and do that, watch that. So I'm going to ask real quick, Jeff, one for you. Athea, do you plan to support the Google Glass Enterprise? And if so, when?
So I'm going to have to be a bit coy on this one because this wouldn't be the forum to be making that kind of announcement. But I would say that, it's part of a range of devices we're evaluating as part of an ongoing review of strategic hardware to support. You will have seen over the last 6 months that we've had a lot of Toshiba's new Windows 10 smart glasses. So it's definitely on our radar.
Fantastic. Well, I think that I want to thank everybody who has made some questions. Thomas, thank you for your number. We will get back to you, as well as Jason and the rest of the team that Pravan and Caesar. So thank you very much. I want to thank the experts here today. I think it's really insightful. We continue to do these webinars. We have one next week where we have PTC and Newport News Shipbuilding talking about some things that they've delivered. Thank you very much. Again, this will be made available. I'll email it out to the participants. It will be up on the website, area website. Any interest of obviously these companies and the area, please feel free to contact me at the mark@thearea.org. I wish you all a very good rest of the day. Thank you, David, Jeff, and Peter. And as they would say, it's coming home. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.